Do you know where slugs and snails hide in your garden, and do you know how to get rid of them? Managing slugs and snails can reduce damage to your garden plants and can lower your risk of infection from the rat lungworm parasite. Slugs and snails are hosts for the rat lungworm parasite. An accidental ingestion of infected slugs or snails can cause mild to severe human illness. Using a combination of methods, you can reduce your risk of infection and control the slugs and snails in your garden. First, learn the shapes, sizes, and colorations of slugs and snails common to Hawaii and the Pacific Islands. Recognize the semi-slug, which can be more heavily infected with the rat lungworm parasite compared to other species. Adult semi-slugs are brown and have a distinctive yellowish half shell on their back and a forked tail. They are very small as juveniles. The appearance of slugs and snails depends on their life stage and varies from eggs to juveniles to adults. It's important to be able to recognize all life stages. Other slugs common to the Pacific are the gray garden slug, the giant African snail, the Cuban slug, and the leopard slug. Second, find out if you have slugs or snails in your garden. Slugs and snails are more commonly found on the shady side of the garden, or where there is good shelter and moisture. Check under boards, cardboard, stones, and weed cloth in dense ground covers and around or under pots. Soil crevices around tree trunks and weedy areas are also favorite hiding spots. Slugs and snails prefer a moist, dark environment and feed at night. Look for slugs and snails after nightfall and after a recent rain. What are some other clues that slugs and snails are in the garden? Look for slime trails, chewed leaves or seedlings, or slug and snail droppings. Now that you know there are slugs and snails in your garden, you will need a plan to manage your growing area. Reduce the number of places where slugs and snails can hide during the day. Clear vegetation around growing areas to make it easier to see slug and snail activity. Slugs and snails can crawl into hoses laying on the ground. Make sure to hang up the hose to prevent slugs and snails from entering. Remove fallen or rotten fruit and vegetables to reduce food sources for slugs and snails. As a preventive strategy, it's better to water earlier in the day to allow for water to evaporate and the ground to dry out. Consider using drip irrigation, which applies water directly to individual plants rather than the area surrounding the plants. This uses less water and creates a less desirable environment for slugs and snails. Slugs and snails are attracted to pet food. Pets can get sick if they accidentally eat slugs infected with the rat lungworm parasite. Feed pets during the day and do not leave food in the pet dishes overnight. What and where you plant can make a difference. Place vegetable gardens far from plants that may attract slugs and snails in areas that harbor them. Create an observational area with short ground covers or mulch around your garden area so snails and slugs can be easily noticed. Another option is to build a raised bed for your vegetable garden so it is easier to monitor and treat for pests. Now that we've covered slug and snail habits and habitats, let's talk about ways to control them. Trapping and physical removal of slugs and snails works best together. First, draw out slugs and snails by creating a moist, dark environment. Watering trapping areas late in the afternoon and placing a board with a spacer or moistened black plastic bag to trap slugs and snails works well. Once trapped, remove these pests using gloves or tongs to avoid bare hand contact, and always wash your hands afterwards. Do not crush or step on slugs and snails. Instead, place slugs and snails in a covered wide-mouth container with 1 part salt and 7-part water solution. Leave in the sun for 3 to 4 days, then discard in the trash. Barriers may keep slugs and snails out of the growing area. Copper bands at least 3 to 4 inches wide can deter slugs and snails from crossing, but should be cleaned regularly since slime can build up and reduce the copper's effectiveness. There are organic as well as non-organic baits to kill slugs and snails. Baits that contain iron phosphate as the active ingredient are safe to use around children and pets. Read and follow the label instructions for proper use of baits and safety precautions for humans and animals.